The case includes the offender Scott William Cashman versus Regina, the Crown. Mr. Cashman is charged on Indictment 83326 with 7 counts of possession of a controlled substance for the purpose of trafficking contrary to Section 5(2) of the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, Supreme Court 1996, namely methamphetamine, cocaine, fentanyl, ketamine, codeine, hydromorphone, and morphine.
The charges arise from a search of Mr. Cashman and Mr. Harm's residence located at 7419 Columbia Street, Mission, BC. 3.5 kilograms of fentanyl, 1.6 kilograms of methamphetamine, and various amounts of other controlled substances were discovered in these 2 residences, one in Maple Ridge and other in Mission, after search warrants were executed on both properties.
Mr. Cashman was initially charged together with Christopher Leigh Harms, who disposed of his matters before trial. 3 sets of admissions of fact were filed as exhibits at trial, which addressed the elements of the offenses, identification, continuity of exhibits, and that possession of the substances would have been for the purpose of trafficking. The only issue to be determined is whether Mr. Cashman had knowledge and control over the controlled substances located inside the residence.
The Crown submits that when the totality of evidence is considered, although circumstantial, there can be no reasonable doubt that Mr. Cashman was in possession of the controlled substances found inside the residence. But counsel for Mr. Cashman submits that although Mr. Cashman and Mr. Harms shared the apartment and lived together, Mr. Cashman cannot be presumed to possess the controlled substances that were located upstairs, since he lived downstairs while his roommate, Mr. Harms, lived upstairs. In April, Mr. Harms, who had a history of drug and firearms offenses, received a 14-year prison sentence. With time served, he has 11 years left.
To summarize the evidence, on July 16, 2020, members of the Lower Mainland Emergency Response Team, as known as ERT, assisted the Ridge Meadows RCMP in executing a search warrant at the Columbia Street residence. In this 2-story house, Mr. Cashman resided. The execution of the search warrant was the culmination of an investigation into drug trafficking at the Columbia Street residence and a second residence located at 12021 Garden Street, Maple Ridge, BC. Controlled substances were found at both homes and other paraphernalia indicative of drug trafficking. It is admitted that the controlled substances located at the Columbia Street residence are inconsistent with personal use and were possessed for the purpose of trafficking.
A third co-accused, Miss Collar, resided at Garden Street residence. Both Mr. Cashman and Mr. Harms were put under surveillance at both residences between April 1st and July 16, 2020. A grey Dodge Ram pickup truck that was registered to Mr. Cashman was observed at both locations, and police observed both men entering and exiting the 2 residences several times carrying duffel bags.
After almost 2 months of surveillance, the ERT members decided to execute a search warrant at Columbia Street. As members of the ERT were entering the property, Mr. Cashman was seen walking from the area at the front of the residence and towards the taxi. He was directed to stop and was subsequently detained and searched. No items were located on Mr. Cashman's person.
However, Mr. Harms was caught trying to get out through the window of his second-floor bedroom, holding a bag at the back of the house. When police searched his bedroom and ensuite bathroom, they discovered a significant amount of controlled substances, drug paraphernalia, and firearms, including a loaded 9mm caliber Shadow semi-automatic pistol with 1 ammunition cartridge in its chamber in the cocked position, ready to fire, an electronic cash counting machine on stool next to the bed where a bundle of Canadian currency in various denominations totaling $2,610 was found, and different items associated with mixing and weighing of drugs, including 200 grams of brown fentanyl, around 14.79 gram pieces of cracked cocaine, a clear plastic bag containing 900 grams of methamphetamine in crystal form, and a plastic bag containing 1.55 kilograms of dark-colored fentanyl, and more.
Moreover, police found an additional $102,725 in Canadian currency inside the black backpack in the closet. But when the police executed the search warrant at Columbia Street residence, no controlled substances or paraphernalia were located in Mr. Cashman's bedroom or on the main floor of his residence. All they found in Mr. Cashman's bedroom was the monitor and the recording device for a CCTV system.
On the same day, Ridge Meadows RCMP also executed a search warrant at the Garden Street residence, where they found a black safe in Scholar's bedroom containing 164.62 grams of methamphetamine and 145.64 grams of cocaine, and several bundles of Canadian currency totaling up to $6,665, and a plastic container with $328 of rolled Canadian coins.
The Garden Street home first came to police attention after they were called to the address regarding a deceased male and noticed approximately 20 glass pipes with white residue on the premises, along with what happened to be cracked rocks and a small bag of methamphetamine. The police located all of the controlled substances inside Miss Scholar's bedroom. In total, 72,000 doses of illicit drugs were seized by the police, including 3.5 kilograms of suspected blue fentanyl.
To conclude, considering the attendance at Garden Street together with evidence, it is reasonable to infer that there was an ongoing drug trafficking operation involving Mr. Harms and Mr. Cashman. It can be concluded that Mr. Cashman was not merely present at these two locations, but was also a participant in illegal activity. Based on surveillance on April 30, 2020, Judge Devlin found enough evidence to connect Mr. Harms and Mr. Cashman to the activity at the Garden Street residence.
Having considered the cumulative effects of all of the evidence viewed logically and in the light of human experience, I find that the only reasonable inference is that Mr. Cashman had knowledge that the drugs were located in the residence and had a degree of control over them, concluded Madam Justice Devlin. I find that the evidence established beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Cashman had constructive possession of the controlled substances located at the Columbia Street residence, she said. The Crown established beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Cashman had both knowledge and control of the controlled substances found at Columbia Street residence. Mr. Cashman is found guilty on counts 3 through 9 on the indictment.
The Crown relies on Section 4 of 3B to establish that Mr. Cashman had constructive or joint possession over the controlled substances seized from Columbia Street residence. In R versus Ahmedzai 2012 BCCA 215 Mackenzie GA sets out the test for constructive or joint possession under Section 4 of 3 as follows. Proof of manual handling of prohibited item or substance is not required to prove constructive or joint possession under Section 4 of 3. Rather, to prove constructive possession, the Crown must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused had knowledge of the nature of the prohibited item or substance and some measure of control over it. In R versus Morelli, Fish J said,
Constructive possession is established where the accused did not have physical custody of the object in question, but did have it in the actual possession or custody of another person, or in any place, whether or not that place belongs to or is occupied by him, for the use or benefit of himself or of another person. Constructive possession is thus complete where the accused 1. Has knowledge of the character of the object, 2. Knowingly puts or keeps the object in a particular place, whether or not that place belongs to him, and 3. Intends to have the object in the particular place for his use or benefit or that of another person.
Similarly, in R versus Fisher 2005, BCCA 444 at paragraph 24, the court held that for joint or constructive possession to exist, the accused must have knowledge and be in a position to exercise some element of control over the item.